Hello and welcome to the Unwanted Opinion podcast, the show in which me and my friends give our unwanted opinions on all thing film. My name is Lewis and I'm joined today with Kyle.
Hello, hello.
Hello, and Gonzalo.
Hey.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
Good
Yeah.
actually, yeah, quite good.
I'm pretty down
Nice
with
day.
the
Mm-hmm.
hay fever, as you can probably tell. But apart from that, I'm doing grand.
Yeah,
Yep.
the hay fever in that dark room you're in.
I went outside actually today, so thank you very much.
Oh.
And that was the mistake I made, is leaving this
Yeah,
dark room.
Honestly.
yeah. I haven't been
Anyway,
outside today yet, but
that's alright,
nighttime walk
Spain.
part of the
What's the
dark.
point?
It
God,
was raining all
Gonzalo.
day. It's just become sort of sunny right now. Like it looks sunny on the recording, but it's actually quite
Yeah, I know.
overcast
Lewis,
and
if Lewis
cloudy.
leans back like half an inch, he just becomes
Yeah, he
absorbed in
becomes an
light. Right? Yeah,
angel.
it's like
Yeah, there you go. Engulfed in the
I hate.
light
We
of the
always
sun.
record at the hour the sun's
Always.
right there. It's always in my face, and I hate it. I
You
hate it.
should
I
really
hate stuff.
turn your whole apartment around so we don't get to
Mm,
do that,
yeah, that's a really good
Face
idea.
it
just
first.
change
Thanks.
the circumference of
Yeah.
the building.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll take a note of that. But anyway, on today's show, speaking of staying inside, we are talking about
Oh,
Inside Out 2. Yes, we'll do a full spoiler-free and spoiler-filled section later in the show. I mean, actually, hold on. Gothal, are you okay with that? Because I know
I'm
you haven't
okay with
seen
spoilers.
it.
As always,
Double
I
check in
showed up
case
for
we
this
rush it.
episode without doing the
Mhm.
one thing that I should do for the episode,
Yes.
which is watch the movie
Uh-huh.
we're talking about. But
Yeah,
I'm
of
here,
course.
so we
when
can
you
kind
ever
of
done
talk
that?
about
But
it.
when
Mm-hmm.
have you ever done that before?
Never. By the way, I
No.
just watched Oppenheimer. You guys should really watch that movie. It's fantastic.
Every week he has to say this, doesn't he?
Every week.
Doesn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, anyway, let's jump right into this. This is a film me and Kyle have seen, and I think the rest of the world has practically seen at this point.
The
But yes,
yeah.
Inside.
Holy shit.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. We'll get to that later. Inside Out 2 was directed by Kelsey Mann and is the follow up to Inside Out, Pixar's film, which came out 9 years ago now in 2015.
Mm,
And sort of carrying on from that, you have Riley. So we follow emotions in Riley's head, which, the main ones are joy, anger, disgust, fear, and sadness. And still to this day, we're sort of in Riley's adolescent years now, and still these the five main emotions running things, and everything seems to be going really smoothly until one day puberty kicks in, and with that, a bunch of new emotions come in, including anxiety is the main one, ennui, envy, and embarrassment. So all these sort of teenage emotions, and when they have come to this big sort of control room of Riley's brain, they start to take over. So that is sort of kind of the brief synopsis for Inside Out 2. Kyle, what did you think of Inside Out 2?
So I want to let's go back a bit. 'Cause interestingly, Inside
mm,
Out One,
Mm.
right? So 2014, 9 years ago, Inside Out One
Oh, 2015.
once again
Mm.
quite dominated the box office at the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
They did really well. It was
Yeah.
Pixar.
Yeah.
Pixar films usually always used to do well before
Yeah.
COVID happened. Yeah.
If you
Mm.
if you gave me a nickel for every time an Inside Out movie did really well and a Mad Max movie didn't do that well, I would have two
Mm.
Yeah.
nickels in the same
It's not a
years,
lot.
which is
It's
really
kind of
weird.
weird
It's
that it
happened
happens.
twice.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
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 Same
we were
story.
discussing
Mm.
um
Mm.
Lewis over text just weirdly that you
Mm.
weren't like, or you really didn't understand like how much of an impact the first one had because you were like
No,
Mm.
I.
you were quite
When we talk
surprised.
about box office,
Mm.
go to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because Inside Out, when it came out, it was a
Mm.
very popular film. All Pixar's films dominate the box office, like I said,
Mm.
pre-COVID. But yeah, it was never like an Incredibles or Toy Story or Monsters Inc.
Mhm.
or Ratatouille. All these ones that people that at least in my generation went back and watched and were
Mm.
really sort of those beloved those films. So Inside Out 2, I was not expecting when we get to we'll talk about box office. I wasn't expecting to do this well and have this much of a cultural impact as it did. To me, it was like kind of like the Avatar of
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
of Pixar's
Yeah.
filmography. I didn't, people still care about this, and that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
surprising to me. Yeah.
It is surprising to me as well. I'm not. I don't think the first movie is a bad movie. I
Mhm.
Mm,
just it didn't really like given the again Pixar's filmography. It seemed like a pretty mid entry on that filmography.
mm,
It never really quite sat right with me. It felt like
mm,
the story outside of like the emotions was a
mm,
lot more interesting and a lot more like emotionally engaging than the story we followed during the
Yeah.
film. Like for me, it
Yeah,
felt like
yeah.
most of the emotions from that movie came from like this child and her relationship with her parents. Like that's what I actually cared about and what actually made me cry in the end, because like it is mandatory to cry on pretty much all Pixar movies at some point. But like that
Not
is
me.
yeah. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
like it is that like that seemed to me like an interesting movie, like a very like Spirited Away kind of
Mhm.
adjacent, this whole idea
Mhm.
of like a 10, 12-year-old moving to a new city with her parents and struggling to like adapt in her relationship with her parents and stuff. Like it just felt like a really engaging storyline. Then the whole idea of the emotions itself just felt incredibly redundant of the first Toy Story. It was Woody,
Mm.
who's the top emotion. Now then, this emotion comes in and wants to take hold of
Mm.
the reins,
Oh my god,
and so
this guy really
they
wouldn't like Toy Inside Out 2 then.
yeah, like they just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
get lost in
Mm.
this world, explore this world from a different point of view.
Yeah.
Things happen, get back and
Mhm.
realize that it's about not who's in charge, but like allowing things to happen, kind of thing. I don't know.
Yes.
It I never really connected with the
Mhm.
with the characters of the emotions.
Mhm.
People are gonna hate me for this, but I do not give a fuck about Bing Bong. Um, I felt nothing. I felt absolutely nothing
Yeah.
when he faded away into
Mhm.
obscurity.
Mhm.
Yeah, it just felt like there was something interesting to the
Mhm.
idea, and
Well,
to me,
your
it barely
Yeah.
points, there
explored it.
is
Yeah.
your points
Hmm.
are quite valid when
Hmm.
weirdly enough when it comes to a film you haven't seen. But anyway,
I
we'll
was
get
gonna
back
say.
to that.
Yeah.
Kyle,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So
you see
back to the
your
original
overall
question.
thoughts.
Yeah,
Yeah, back to the
I
original question. Yes.
I overall I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it. I
Hmm.
I didn't come out of it
Mm.
thinking, oh god, like not in the last kind of the last two Pixar films I've seen. I saw Elemental, which I thought was fine. I
Hmm.
thought it wasn't as hated on as it should have been. It shouldn't have
Hmm.
been as
Mhm.
hated on.
Yeah.
No, sorry, that's the other way
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
It
It
was
was
too
hated
hated
on
on.
more than it should have
Uh
been. Yeah.
Lightyear,
Right,
which is
yeah.
horrific. I don't understand why they made that film
That
at
wasn't hated
all.
on enough, I feel
That
like.
wasn't hated on
I
enough.
never
It's
even I never even
Yeah.
saw that one. Yeah.
No, I haven't.
oh my god,
I
like
didn't get
back
past the
to
intro.
back to the
Tried
conception
to
of
watch
that film where Chris Evans had
it.
to explain in a tweet who he was actually playing. That was enough to make me go, this is a bad
Yeah.
idea. No, Lightyear
Yeah.
Lightyear was
Mm.
genuinely just terrible, and I thought Elemental was a step up, but it wasn't.
Hmm.
It was him testing the waters.
Mm.
It had
But yeah,
interesting ideas and things to say. Maybe it
uh-huh.
didn't say them in the best way, but it tried.
Mm.
Exactly. And Inside Out 2, I was kind of a bit like they're playing it
Mm.
safe again.
Mm.
That's what I
Mhm.
kind of really felt with this. And in my
Mhm.
head, I'm a bit like, conflicted, but then when I'm watching it, I was like, I'm not
You're
hating
Mm.
entertained.
this.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
I had a huge thing talking about one of my friends who's studying art and design in Bournemouth, and she's doing animation and all that. We had a huge talk about animation on
Mm.
Sunday, and we were talking about how we were quite upset with
Mm.
Pixar, how they're kind of going away from originality to now going back to
Mm.
sequels. And
Mm.
then
Yes.
literally when we're talking about the box office, I'm like, I don't feel they're going to go back to originality anymore. I
Mm.
know, I,
Yeah.
I know,
You
I
said they're
know
gonna
what you're saying
mix it,
about
is what they've said.
yeah, but I know
They're
they
gonna
had a
mix
lovely
it.
little
Mhm.
kind of streak with Luca, Soul,
Luca
Mhm.
turning
Turning
red.
Red,
So
and
Turning Red.
I
Yeah.
know you guys maybe don't feel as much about Luca as I do, but I thought Turning Red was a
I
really
love
nice kind of
Luca.
film about
I love
you
Mm.
turning
know
red.
Turning
Yeah.
Red. Soul was nice. Soul was a bit too
Soul's
excited.
my
Soul had
favorite they've done
issues.
this.
Yeah.
Soul's, my opinion,
Mm.
the best one they've done this decade. But
Yeah,
See,
but
out of
it's
the
like
three, I
we
it's
put
we
like
have beef
those
over
also
that.
Luca
Yeah.
turning
yeah,
red. Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
like those
Yeah,
three.
but
I
at
was like,
least
oh,
they were
that's
something
originality.
new. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Like they were
and
telling new
now
stories from new perspectives about new topics.
and then
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
kind of
Mm.
went, oh, they had a bit of a hiccup with
Mm.
They felt like oh box office wise that they weren't doing well because it was COVID. It's really hard to
Yeah.
justify that.
Yeah, and
And then they went, oh,
I've always
Lightyear.
said that
The
too, that
direct
Disney were
to
trying to,
Disney Plus
yeah, Disney
stuff
Plus
also
thing
Yeah,
absolutely
that
ruined
ruined
it.
it. Yeah.
that
Absolutely.
And
was
Yeah.
then
horrific, I
Mhm.
think.
they did
Yeah.
the Lightyear thing, which just
Mhm.
bombed, and then they went Elemental, which just didn't do great. And I just don't feel it was really
I think
working well
and
enough.
Elemental got there in the end. It stayed in cinemas
It
and
did.
managed to
Stayed.
rake up
It
a bit of
stayed in
money. Yeah.
cinemas, which is
Mhm.
interesting because studios aren't just doing that. They take a week and
No,
then they'll
they
be in
don't.
the
They
front
just
of the
leave
cinema.
films in cinemas and let them.
Um,
It's all about the opening
they don't
weekend
let the
these
cook open.
days. Yeah.
But yeah, so this felt very
Mhm.
much more instead of that kind of letting somebody try something new, they went right. Let's
Mm.
just go
Mhm.
back to our tested and true formula. And
Yeah.
it very much is like exactly how Gonzalo says of how he's describing the
Mm.
first film. He's almost
Mhm.
describing the second film. And
Yes,
in
they
my
get you.
head, I'm
Yep.
like, I'm like,
Yeah.
this is such a unique, like, it's not like, I'm not saying a sequel's necessary or needed, but I'm like, this
Mhm.
is a very organic way to introduce a sequel by
Mm.
having the child go through puberty and introducing new emotions.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, this could be
Yeah.
good, and anxiety is a big emotion to deal with. And then
Mm.
later,
Yeah.
by the end of it, I'm like, I was really annoyed by the ending. I'll tell you that, and we'll
Mm.
get on to the
Um.
spoilers.
Okay.
And I think
Okay.
Lewis will know what we're talking about, especially when we're going back on with Gonfalo.
Mm.
But once again, I felt this one lacked the kind of adventure of the emotions, where
Mm.
in
Mhm.
the first film the emotions were kind of going through the journeys and the journey to get to the the gimmick
Mm.
or whatever they had to get to in that first film versus the gimmick they have to get to in this second film. I just felt the
Yeah.
actual journey was actually a
Yeah.
wee bit
Mhm.
lackluster.
Wow,
There,
that's
Yeah.
surprising because I didn't. I thought the first movie had a lackluster journey, so an even more
I mean,
lackluster
I
journey.
don't think they're both. I don't think
Yeah.
either of them are like that perfect
No,
sort of
I
journey
know,
to
but
get to
like
the
it's
gimmick.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting like
There was
that
there was
because like
one section I found
yeah,
funny,
mm,
and that got my cinema laughing.
Is that the
yeah,
vault?
Which was the vault. Especially
mm,
The
with
vault is good.
there's a
Yes.
voice actor that I was really surprised I didn't realize was in it, and I was actually quite
mm.
happy
Mhm.
that they were there.
Yeah.
Matthew Mercer from Critical Role.
Oh, nice. Does he do a
If you
narrator role at some point?
No,
Or
he plays a kind of video game character, like a crush
mm,
version of something. Um,
Yeah.
that's
It's
fun.
and then
very. I.
Like a
there's a
teenage
very
I was a fan
crush,
of that.
like
there's
yeah.
a very kind of Dora the Explorer aspect that I genuinely I could hear somebody behind me almost saying, like there's a whole like you know
Mhm.
oh, can you say this? And the
Mhm.
one of the like 20 year olds behind me almost said it, and
Oh
they just
yeah.
caught themselves. Like I'm like that's decades of Dora the Explorer just having damage done onto like
Yeah.
this generation. But yeah, sorry. Get
Um.
to the
Yeah.
overall. Like I said, it was fine. It was nothing new. It was them being safe,
Yeah.
and
Mm,
I'm not saying not saying I hated it because I'm like it is
Mhm.
safe.
mm,
It was
mm.
fine.
I
It was
mean, it
good,
is Pixar.
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not breaking ground. It's not doing something
Mm,
new,
Uh-huh.
and that kind of annoyed me.
mm.
Mhm. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, look,
Understand. Mm,
positives, I'll say, really, the
mm,
voice cast are all excellent. Also, Maya Hawke as Anxiety
mm,
was the standout.
Really
I think
good.
she's
Yeah.
actually really good, and the way she's animated, oh, fantastic. I really love the
mm.
way it's all very sporadic and just the way her face moves and
Zoomies,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I really loved the way she was animated as well. Like there are, like you're saying, Kel's moments where it's really funny. I really liked the vault stuff too.
Hmm.
That was really the highlight of the whole the whole thing for me. And it's interesting, right? Because look,
Mm,
yes, very very similar plot structure to the first film. It's the same. They get kicked out of the control room and have to find their way back
mm,
and get a thing on the way.
mm,
But and the last time it was just they had disgust, anger, and fear left in the control room,
mm,
but this time they have sort of the whole team
Hmm.
mm.
get kicked out, and I think that provided that's something that the first film was missing, was more time with all the
Urgency.
emotions together,
Oh yeah.
because that's where the fun of it was for me, was all these emotions sort of mixing together.
Hmm.
So I'm glad we got that this time around,
Just like a
while
bigger
also
team,
having
like going on
having
the
a bigger
journey.
team and stuff
Okay.
like that. So I'm kind of glad we got that this time around.
Nice.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think Inside Out never really stuck out for me because it's a weird thing to say about Pixar, right? Because
Mm,
time and time again they proved like why they're one of the best animation studios in the movie industry.
Hmm.
But there's something about the art design of Inside Out that has never really appealed to me, and I can't really put my
Okay.
finger on it. It really, to me, feels really just too simplistic, and
I
essentially because
get
like
what you mean by
yeah, it's like
it's
so.
it's not got that kind of like you compare
Mhm.
Coco and Luca and you see two different
mm,
films,
Mm,
but then
yeah.
you look
yes.
at Inside Out. If you were to show me a character, like if you show
Mhm.
me like a human character from most of the Pixar films, I can tell you that's Pixar because of the
Mhm.
uniqueness of it. Inside Out is
Which
like you say,
Pixar
Lewis, the
film?
one that's
Yeah.
the bit most
Mhm.
generic in the
Mm.
animation
Yeah,
fun.
and
I mean, I would say it
I feel
doesn't
like
look
that
bad.
has
It
happened
looks
like
no,
good.
overall with like the animation industry. There's been this kind of homogenization where like
uh,
you started with like different styles, different tries to just like get
mhm,
to like a blend of like the most appealing like
mhm,
a generic
Hmm.
cartoony style. You
mhm.
see this
Yeah.
exemplified a lot in like a lot of lower budget 3D animated movies whenever like an
Mhm.
indie studio tries to make a successful movie, they try to go
Mhm.
specifically for that like
Yeah.
homogenized kind of thing. And you can see a
Yeah.
lot of like we see it in like the latest 3D animated Disney films where it's just like we're just doing this, like this is the style for
Mhm.
all of them, it's not going to change from movie to movie. We saw it in Wish where like they quote unquote tried to do a different style, but it was
Mhm.
just the same thing with ugly backgrounds.
Mhm. Mhm.
So like yeah, like it's I kind of get what you mean with like the character design,
Do
especially
you,
with Pixar, like with some of like
Mhm.
the wild character designs they've
Mhm.
done in the past in
yeah,
some of their movies, you know?
Gunfile, I want to actually give you some homework for next week.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right.
Netflix, Ultraman
Yes.
Rising. Just watch 10 minutes of it and tell me what
Okay.
you think about the animation, because I'm really actually
Okay.
interested to hear your opinion on that. But
Okay.
completely,
Mhm.
that's
But
aside,
yeah,
I
Leave me
just
out of
thought,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have
with
to
Yeah.
admit,
like you're and that this is the thing I got with it as well because it's like
Mm,
it's weird because it's like you're saying it kind of has that very similar Pixar structure to it that we've seen in countless of their films,
mm,
and there's even this bit where
mm,
Joy has this moment where she like has like she sort of freaks out or has like a big kind of monologue
yeah,
to the rest of the emotions, and I was like, that is really similar to Woody's one in Toy Story 4 about
mm,
purpose and the
mm,
reason you're around. And I was like, that was 5 years ago. Like
mm.
everyone's seen that. Like it's just so samey. And it is frustrating because there's so
That's the
much you can
frustrating
do with
thing,
the
yeah.
idea of Inside Out, and
Especially with
it's
like the amount of
uh
new young voices that they have that we've been
yeah.
seeing showcased
yeah.
with like so many
Mm-hmm.
different and like when you look at the Pixar shorts, they've only gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
Like they get the opportunity to give like these like new voices from diverse backgrounds the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to tell
Oh,
these
there's no
short
Pixar
stories.
short.
Yeah, like there's a bunch
I
of
just,
amazing Pixar shorts.
They're
Yeah.
on Disney
yeah,
Plus,
in
aren't
this
they?
one, there
Yeah.
was there was no
Mm-hmm.
Pixar
They
short in
never
this
did a
one
short.
actually.
Oh,
They
they
didn't do a
didn't?
short before the start. They didn't do a short before the start of this one though.
That
No,
hurts
I
my
didn't realize
soul.
that. Do you know what, I have to
Yeah,
say though, just to give it a one
Yeah.
more positive, I thought
Mm,
yeah.
the like we were talking about, especially my heart's anxiety, I thought they
mm,
did it really well with the portraying of how that emotion runs, as
Mm-hmm.
also
No,
how Riley
that
does it.
stuff is good. That
mm,
stuff is
That
good.
I
Yeah.
was like, I was like,
Mm,
they've hit that nail on the hammer.
mm, mm,
But I
mm.
imagine working at Pixar,
yeah.
you're probably pretty anxious because you're just being given deadlines after deadlines after deadlines. So I don't
Yeah.
think it was very
Yeah.
hard for them to get that on
Yeah.
paper.
Mhm.
But
No, but it is
and
true. It could have been easy
another
to
great
like
example of a panic
fuck that
attack I
up.
felt.
Mm.
I also just want to put that out there. Buddy, DreamWorks and the Pixar, they're going against their panic attacks. They're just
Mm.
they
Yeah,
just love
they
animating
do
panic
that a
attacks.
lot. For some reason, in animated films seems to be the
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, it
it's
makes
funny.
sense if
Um,
you've ever worked in an animated production, like you've had
yeah,
panic attacks.
Yeah.
there was one like I mean, there's like a lot of
Mhm.
like there was a lot of
Mm,
laughs in my in my screening, which I
Oh
liked.
yeah,
I'm
that
like,
yeah, it's
you know,
ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean, my screening, like I said, wasn't predominantly like what I would say the market for that film is. Like kids,
mm,
it was like a
Mhm.
later screening, mid early week, so it was kind of more
Mhm.
adult. So I was still happy to see
Yeah.
that. My favorite one was that Anxiety drinks a tea that is packaged Anxiety tea. And I just was like,
Yeah.
yep, that's just simple. Like, it's the
Simple.
simplest joke there, but a lot of people
Yeah.
were like laughing at that, and
Uh-huh.
it's just like
mm,
easy
Uh-huh.
and on the point. Um,
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna ask you this question, right? Because I
mm,
said my favorite moments. Okay, there are moments when you see the sort of when the emotions take control, how that is then
mm,
performed through in Riley's uh real life, and how that sort of we see, oh, what if we do this, and then when they touch a button it goes wrong, and that stuff's entertaining. But my pros of the film, like I said, I like the main core of emotions being together. Why didn't we just have all the emotions together from the start and they have conflict with each other?
see
And no
that
one
would
gets
have
picked out
been
and to do the same journey again. You just
uh
have actual character conflict with these
mm,
emotions. It doesn't have to be within the
huh.
control room
I know
alone. I
because
just mean
that's where you come in this
that
because
is
I
where
think
the
they're
stuff.
like
Yeah.
they need that adventure aspect. But I do agree that because
Hmm.
you get very introduced early on that when kind of puberty happens, every time
mm,
Yeah.
the main four or five, sorry,
Uh.
go to the control board, like they say
Uh.
they touch it lightly, but like the energy level output is like
Yeah.
over top, and I'm like
Uh.
I would have loved it more like them kind of there was a wee bit of like fighting over it, but I'm like, there just wasn't
Yeah.
enough, and it did make me kind of upset. Cause I'm like you don't just become those 5 new emotions. Like
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
you don't just suppress all of them like that.
Mhm.
It's not as simple. But the idea that I kind of liked with the whole, which I would have loved more, kind of like you said, internal conflict, was the kind of the main plot device is basically Riley's personality. That is like a kind of almost like a brainy
They
orby
have all
thing.
these belief strings, don't they?
Uh huh.
And
And
yeah.
it's the idea, like, you put certain memories down, and those memories form beliefs, which then kind of form overall Riley's personality.
Personality.
And there's very
Yeah.
much a divisive like argument of what her personality should be. And I thought once again that the representation of anxiety, thinking that the personality should be completely one thing, I thought that was great because like
Mhm.
any child who's going through puberty is like completely trying to reinvent themselves because they're like, maybe this isn't me. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, there should have been a lot more. The kind of resolution of that plot line, I would have preferred it if there was a lot more conflict through that plot line.
Yeah.
Which I think we can get more into in spoilers, explaining how that plot line is
Mhm.
actually resolved. Because I do feel that it was so like accidentally resolved that I'm kind of
Yeah.
like, I don't feel they've actually grown in realizing what. I don't know if
Yeah.
Lewis
Yeah.
will get what I mean more than you do.
No, I know what
Pablo,
you mean,
but
and I think
No, I definitely have
it's
no problem
annoying me
with
because
this.
actually talking about this
Yeah.
with you is it's sort of made me. I think Inside Out 1 is simplistic because it is
Mm.
also you're in the mind of a child, and
yeah,
I get that's we keep it simple with the 5 emotions, right? We don't want to overcomplicate things. And okay, with a sequel we can add more and do more things. And I think the potential for Inside Out 2 was actually much more than Inside Out 1 in my eyes
yeah,
when I think about it and
I
what
mean,
you
the
could have really
idea of
done with
someone
it.
going through puberty
Yeah.
and like, yeah, no, like
Uh-huh.
it's a fantastic setup. Like the
Uh-huh.
idea of the
And
film is great, but I feel
mhm,
like that was my main problem
uh,
with the last movie too. Like the
mhm.
concept of the film was more promising than the film that
Yeah.
actually
And
ended up becoming.
it does frustrate me, especially because, like I said, there was more potential with the sequel, and they ended
Mm,
up just doing, the same sort of thing, and it's
mm,
just like, yeah, sure. There's moments where it's funny, there's moments where it's absolutely entertaining, but I
mm.
think overall, I think it
yeah.
is lacking in what it really could have been.
I
Right,
also
why don't we do
think that
scores, then we'll go into
yeah,
spoilers.
no,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
Discord because
Yes. Mm,
I'm probably gonna give it a 7. Like I said,
okay.
I found it
Mm,
enjoying.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
it was repetitive, but then like I said, it probably more enjoyable than I found the last few Pixar kind of entries to be.
yeah.
Did play
okay.
it a wee bit
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
safe. I would have given the first Inside Out an 8. Like I did enjoy that
Mm,
first Inside Out film. Um,
Hmm.
Probably the issue now is like comparing the two, that I'm like they're just the same. Like Inside Out 1 might now
Similar.
be lower in my mind because it's not as unique as it is, because it's like the sequel's just the
It's,
same.
Do
Um,
you
that's not
think
what a
this
sequel
movie
should
could
do.
have worked if Inside Out never happened? Like if you just started
well,
with this
yeah,
film?
obviously, because
Yeah.
if that was the first
Okay.
one you got, it would have been a
Yeah.
wee bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they do
Mhm.
quickly introduce everything like it is. They do a quick introduction, but I do
Mhm.
right. It looks good. Like never have an issue with the
Oh yeah.
animation. Like I
Yeah.
said, maybe generic, but it looked great.
Mm,
I laughed
Mhm.
quite a bit. I actually found Riley's story quite good. I was like, this
mm.
is,
Mhm.
and I know sometimes I was like, here, that's a bad decision, kid. What are you doing? Like, I was sitting there going, like, don't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
Yeah. So you
not
definitely
enough of
vested.
the parents who I found hilarious in
No,
that first
they are
film.
not in this film really at all. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Which was
sad.
it's really upsetting because I thought the
Disappointed.
dad was hilarious in that first
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, like I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm not saying I love
Mm,
it. It was good. It was a nice Pixar film.
yeah.
7. I'm gonna leave it at just a nice 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Maybe.
I'm going
Honest.
lower. I'm gonna go 6. Yeah.
Mm,
I think, like I was saying, it's weird that Gonzalo's the one who put the pin on it when he's not the one who's seen the film
I
about
know
it
it's
being
it's
the
incredible.
same similar film,
I
but
mean,
it's quite
they
funny.
made. It's not my
Um,
fault they made the same movie twice. I was comfortable with the first one.
there is that too,
Yeah.
and I just think they didn't really realize. And I look, I get it. It's really hard, especially when you're obviously you're in the midst of making something and you're writing something and you're in the midst of writing the story. You obviously don't have the bird's eye view of it. You don't have the
Oh,
full complete
definitely.
work to go Okay, well now I see what could have actually been better if we did this instead of
Yeah.
that.
Making
I
movies
get it.
way harder
Um,
than talking about them.
You know,
Yes, exactly, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
to
This is the
see to
easiest
jump
thing we can ever do.
Yeah.
see to jump on what you were saying, Lewis, about
Mm.
how you really
Mhm.
wanted like all those emotions to have that conflict. We'll
Mm.
probably see
Yeah.
it in Inside Out 3 when new emotions come in, and then all those 9 emotions get chucked out the console room
That's true.
and get sent to go on a
Yeah.
gimmick.
We
So
we
you'll
jump
see it
ahead
in Inside
to
Out 3.
Riley's middle aged and going through a divorce.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Yeah,
We'll do that
yeah.
film next.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna give it a 6/10. It has
Mm.
its moments for sure, and but I just think it does kind of lack it as an
Mm.
overall project. Anyway, now we're jumping into spoilers. So if you have not seen Inside Out 2 and you really want to, don't listen to this. But yeah, spoilers, Kyle. What has bothered you so much about the ending?
So the ending, like I said, the
Explain what happened.
personality
Like,
thing.
what?
Right.
Yeah, like
So
spoil it for me. 'Cause
I'm gonna give you some,
yeah.
I'm gonna give you some
Give me a
breakdown.
rundown
Right
first.
at the beginning
Yeah,
of the
please.
film, they're building. The main 5 emotions are. I've been building kind of Riley's personality, but Joy has always been putting like slightly bad memories to the back of the mind using a wee little
Mm.
gizmo. So her personality is kind of merely basically made up of joy and purely joy and nothing really else.
Mhm.
And anxiety has then come in, and because she's at this hockey camp, and basically she wants to get into this amazing team. So anxiety's been like planning out how she's going to do it, and creating it purely based on anxiety, and it's like a weird kind of electric. Like I said, like Liz, I love the way they like pictured anxiety, how it's like very fast, very zoomy, almost like shocking.
Yeah.
And
She
they make
goes to
that
all these different
personality.
projections of what could
Mm.
possibly happen.
It's
and
like
getting
literally
so
like
many,
road mapping every
These are all the
possible
ways
scenario.
things could go wrong.
It's like it's Doctor Strange, where it's like there's 2 billion possibilities. We have one.
yeah.
And then at the end,
Mhm.
basically all the background, all the thoughts that got pushed back ahead come into this pool, and Joy's panicking, and then they discover, wait, it's her personality is not just one emotion; it's everything.
Yes.
But
But that's
then,
we did that in the last one.
I was
then-
gonna
We did
say,
that.
isn't that the point of
I-
the last one? 'Cause that was the point of the last one.
I was like, oh right, I
Yeah.
know what's gonna happen because she's gearing up for this.
Mhm.
She's had this panic attack
Mhm.
because she like kind of pushed one of her friends
Yeah.
aside because she's a bit bitter because her friends are moving away, which I thought was a great storyline. I thought that's a really good
Yeah.
actual like I said the Riley
That's why I
storyline
like
is almost
Turning
actually
Red.
more interesting. And then
It's just
it's
yeah,
like
it's just that.
so what you think's gonna
Yeah.
happen? You're like right, this
Mm.
new personality bubbles come up, and it's showing that it's always flicking through different all the different emotions, and I'm like,
Mhm.
oh great, and I'm like, it's gonna be a Fantastic Four moment. They're gonna be like, we all have to work the console together,
Yeah.
and then no, it's just joy, and it's like she just
Yeah.
pure joy, and I'm like, that's not what happened. I was like, no,
Yeah.
you were so close.
You know,
You were
weirdly
so
enough,
close.
I had a very similar experience at the end of the first Inside Out because so we're basically exploring these emotions in someone's head, and we are like shown that these emotions have kind of like emotions themselves. They're not like a monolith, like through joy and sadness. I was under the impression, especially after seeing the emotions on both the mom and the dad's head, like be so like amicable with each other.
Yeah.
I was under the impression there was going to be a moment where all the emotions kind of like merge and realize that
Well,
they're not separate, but like
see,
they all have
there is
aspects
a
of each other. And I was like, that
yeah.
is weird that didn't happen.
That would
'Cause
have been a really, really good ending for this film, I think.
yeah, so
I think that
like
would have been
it's
really
really
good.
funny that you have the same thing where it's like instead of working
See-
together, it's just that because that's kind of how I felt after the first movie. I was like, oh, everything seems to be building up to the point of saying this is not like a binary of this is the emotion you are and that's it. Because we see Joy be a complete fucking sociopath through most of that movie. So I'm assuming, hey, her only aspect isn't joy. She's got other emotions to her. So we're going to find out that it turns out it's not all but then they just do the 2 color thing for the core memory, which yeah. So it was
Yeah,
so
I
it's
just
funny that this has like a similar kind of thing where like in the end it feels like it's going in a direction where it's about how and then it
because
doesn't. That's interesting.
at the start when they're introducing the emotions, it's
Hmm.
very very much that's like one emotion at one time, and then there's a part like during it where is it embarrassment I think appears, and he lies on the console, so like 90% of the console's pink, and then sadness goes, oh I'll help you out, and then a tiny bit of it turns blue, And I was like, are they
Mm.
gonna do the thing in the end where they all hold it and it becomes like
Mm.
one
All the
color,
colors of the
so
rainbow.
the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
colors like combine,
They all
you
melt.
know,
Yeah.
to form like a Megazord. But then no, it was just joy,
Yeah.
and I was a bit like,
No, they don't do
here,
that.
you
Oh,
should have
that's
seen.
sad.
Poor Riley's going for
Yeah.
an absolute anxiety attack.
Yeah.
I don't think she's just
That's
gonna come out and be absolutely like,
that's the weird thing again, because it feels
Mhm.
like because that was again my issue with the first movie. It feels like they're setting up something and then they
Mhm.
just ignore what they set up. Like it
yeah.
feels like they're showing you the mechanics towards an
Yeah.
ending. And then they're
That
like,
that that
actually, nah.
really that really
Yeah.
annoyed me,
Mm.
and I was
I can
just
see
like,
that. Yeah.
I would really love it if like they
It's
gave
also a nice message. God damn it!
Mhm.
Like
like they give Riley
This is
beta blockers, and you just see the drugs come in and like
Mhm.
hit the emotions on
Mhm.
the head or
Yeah.
something. That would be
It's annoying.
entertaining.
This is
Yeah.
what I was saying when I felt like there was so
Mm.
much more potential because
Mm.
I also I kind of had this expectation that, because obviously you introduced these all new emotions and they have nostalgia, by the way, the old
Oh,
granny.
yeah. Okay.
But they didn't.
Get
She's
back
like,
in there.
nostalgia. You're too early. You don't come for another. You don't come here for another 10 years. Go back in
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
That
this
was
looks so
funny.
there.
That was
There is
funny.
more emotions
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
way, and
Mm.
I kind of thought we were kind of going to get that in the end, where it's
Mm.
like these aren't enough, and then there's
Mm.
just more and more things and hybrids of these things keep
Yeah. Yeah.
spawning.
Yeah. Or like hybrids between two
Uh,
emotions, whereas like it's a
mhm.
third emotion that's like a
Yeah.
mixture of two and stuff. Like, yeah.
And that's why I really liked your idea there, Gonthal, because that's what I
Mm.
mean. It's because it isn't so simple and binary.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
binary,
because
Absolutely.
sorry, singular.
there's a
Binary
Well,
is
great
yeah.
chaos.
wee
Binary, but like,
uh,
yeah,
yeah,
like
there's a
disjointed. Like
it's
great
it's
not.
not.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not so simple, and I really
Mm.
kind of expected it to be. Oh wow, this whole big crescendo of like all this sort of amalgamation. There's all these different emotions and everything
Yeah.
like that. And that's why I liked your idea because I kind of thought, yeah, maybe that's kind of maybe
Mhm.
we're gonna go here,
Yeah.
and then we just kind of go,
I mean,
nah,
if
like
if
it's
if I
just the
watched
same
the whole
thing.
movie up to the middle
Mhm.
bit and you told me that's how it ends, I would
Yeah.
believe you. Like that seems to
Mhm.
be where they are going, you know?
I agree with those about the kind of like mixing of emotions, because there's like a very
Mm.
early bit when the new emotions first join,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
anxiety's like talking about what she does, and fear's like, oh, I like you, we're gonna get on, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that could
Yeah.
be a suggestion that because
Yeah.
they're almost the same but they're slightly different,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I could have
exactly.
thought
Yeah.
Like,
I
and
thought
then
there's gonna be
with
some
the
sort of like,
colors,
Uh-huh.
that's the
you
thing.
know,
Like, you have these very like identifiable colors. Like, it's so easy
Mhm.
to just have them like, oh, suddenly they get like spots of the color of the other emotions on them, and it's like, oh yeah, it turns out
yeah,
we all flow and we all change and
but
we all
maybe
have
that
this.
confuses kids
Yeah,
too much. Who knows? Maybe they're
yeah.
gonna
I
be
don't
like,
know.
oh, how did this happen?
It is weird. I feel like
Mhm.
this is really insulting. The first
Yeah.
movie reminded me a lot of the Emoji Movie, Instructor.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
really insulting, I know. But it feels like most of the movie isn't really exploring the idea, the big question that the movie sets up. It's just
Mhm.
taking you on a tour of puns. So
Right.
like you have this big like part of the movie that's supposed to be about
Mhm.
toxic positivity, about the idea that
Yes.
you have to embrace the positive and the negative emotions in your life. You can't just like hide away from sadness. Like it's actually good
Mhm.
and it can be a joyous thing. Sadness doesn't
Yeah.
need to be sad. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. It explores that through this kid going through this big change in their life and having for the first time to face this like conflicting emotions. Awesome. Love that story. Then most of the story is them getting lost through punny graphical representations of what
Mhm.
the brain is. And that's where my disconnect came. Because instead of exploring
Well, there's
those
more of that here
ideas,
in this one as well.
yeah, like I
Mhm.
love it. It was fun.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong, and I'm assuming this was fun as well with like the whole idea of the balls with the crushes and stuff. Like we got to see like the dreams and the nightmares. There's the train of thought, but
Okay,
there's that
can
like
we?
brainy
Oh,
looking library with all the memories.
Mhm.
Like like
yeah.
it's. But it just felt like yeah, it's like oh we have to have a
Mhm.
hero's journey through things, so let's just stuff
Yes.
in some cool, interesting backgrounds, which it
Mhm.
was cool and interesting. It's
Mhm.
just I don't know. It feels
Mhm.
like it kind of a cop out. You know, it felt like
Yeah.
kind of a cop
Yeah.
out. And from what I'm hearing from this film, it also feels like they kind of copped
Mhm.
out. Like they could have.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
were saying like, oh, maybe that's too complicated for children. But since when the fuck has Pixar really worried about it
I
being too
mean, that's true,
complicated
They've
for
not
kids?
because
You
really
know?
cared
Toy
about that in
Story
the
is
past.
probably even more complicated.
Like yeah,
I
They've,
want to,
mhm.
Lewis, I want to ask you, how did you? I thought there was
Mhm.
a character in it that you would have found really
Mm.
annoying. Um,
Who?
Pocky. like
I don't even know what.
the
The pouch.
the pouchy.
The pouch. No, I thought Pouch was pretty funny actually.
No, I
I thought it was
Oh,
pretty funny. I liked
I
him.
found he was Pouchy's very much
Yeah.
like in Backpack
Mm.
from Dora.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
there's a very
I
funny thing where he's like,
the
"I've got
vault
3
stuff.
things. What do you need?" And it's like tape,
Yeah,
a banana,
that was I like
TNT,
that.
and then like, I think
Yeah.
that's a great way of
We're
the.
gonna
I
go
love
out
that
to
sequence.
TNT. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that sequence as well because I didn't know because like I thought he was funny the first time and then when they put it again I was like, oh, I bet that would be a bit too much.
I think
I'm
I'm
saying
glad
that
they kind of they didn't really do it too much. It wasn't like
No.
in Bullet Train where they keep going
It-
about Diesel thing.
yeah.
That's when you
I,
that's
I
a joke
think
going
I
too
think
far.
that was
We-
I was worried about that
yeah.
where I was like maybe this could be done too much, but that vault
Yeah,
scene
we
like I
should
said
have
best part of
twice.
the movie,
Yeah.
but what I loved about it was just the kind of mixture of animations in that because you
Yeah,
had
it looked
you had
it
this
looked so good. It looked like a PS2,
uh-huh.
PS3 character. It was
Well,
so cool.
you had the
Uh-huh.
Dora the Explorer character that looked like a 2D animated character that really interacted well with the 3D characters,
Yeah.
and then you had the whatever
It's Father
Lancer
and Soul,
character.
actually.
Yeah, the
Lance, yeah.
PS2 character Lance,
Mm.
who
It
like I
looked
think got the
incredible. It
it
looked
got the
incredible.
biggest laugh
Uh-huh.
when he was trying to get out the
Yeah.
door, and it was so like analog movements where he would like hit the
that I
edge.
laughed at that because
It's
so
almost like
buggy.
a sim being
Yeah.
stuck.
It was
Yeah.
great.
Gonfalo,
Uh-huh.
and that got the biggest
Oh, I
laugh in
need
the
to watch
cinema.
that. Yeah. I
And
love
I
the
thought that
multimedia
scene
animation
was
stuff.
really good because I was like, that's quite fun, like mixing
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
animations,
We needed
which
more,
is something
we
I
needed more
liked in.
stuff like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
That's
which I
what
really
that's
liked.
that's what I mean. Like when we're talking about this movies like Soul, Luca, Turning Red, like the exploration, the creative exploration, not only of themes but of styles. Like I'm not a big fan of Soul. I think that maybe has a lot of issues, but the 2D characters are fucking amazing. Like the
Yeah.
way they make those line characters, like that was incredible. Like it looks so fucking good. And I love that like even when I can say, hey, this is not a movie that I'm like a big fan of, I can see that like exploration and originality. And I'm glad that they did do cross stylization stuff in this one because at the very least you do get to see that like, hey, let's explore something new, let's play around with it kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
It is
Well,
hard.
Kel, is there
It is a Pixar movie.
is there any other
can only
parts
be
of the
that bad.
story you wanna
Yeah.
spoil? You wanna talk about before we move on to box
Oh,
office?
I want to talk about like I was saying the actual fear part. Or sorry, there's a scene in it that I was genuinely like, Riley, don't do this, girl. Where it's the kind of self-destructive nature of anxiety that I thought was really much shown when basically the coach that they're doing this track with has this notebook, and it's got her thoughts of all the players, and basically the one of the I think a really great just representation of anxiety where she's basically can't sleep because she's thinking of all the possibilities of what the day will bring tomorrow.
The book says.
And then it's that push, the anxiety pushes her to go and actually sneak in and read what the book says. And the book's not really saying what she wants to see, which just enhances it. And I was like, oh, this is great for showing that, like up to that point, anxiety was like, oh, this could happen, this could happen. But then at that point, it shows that going so far, like, doesn't, it just damages you. And I was like, that was great. I was like, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, there was like, because they always teased a bit that there was some usefulness to anxiety, and like at the end when they're having that wee little like round table, anxiety does become helpful in some points, but then I like that representation of the fact that once it goes too far, it then becomes destructive, and I just thought that was a great representation of it.
No,
That's
I
a
agree.
good one. Yeah, because like with
it's a good
emotions,
part
that
of
is
the
pretty
story,
much how it works. Like all of these emotions have evolved to like kind of like help you in some way throughout your life, whether socializing or like planning how not to die and stuff. But taking them to the extreme is what like anxiety in itself, like it allows you to
And
see
I just
and
I
plan
don't
out
think I'll
and
be able
stuff into
to.
the
I don't
future,
think I'll be
you
able to
know?
rewatch Maya Hawke and Stranger Things without thinking she's completely anxious all the time now,
Hmm.
just because that's just going to be.
There is a weird thing with the anxiety thing though, which kind of acts as a little like plot hole. I know I'm not really big into plot holes, but it is like a bit weird thing because when anxiety takes control, during the final match, the final hockey tryouts match, and she's obsessed with scoring 3 goals because that's the record that her
Or
sort of
beats
the
the
person
record,
she
yeah.
she wants to beat the record of scoring 3 goals, and the thing is, anxiety takes control, and she scores the first goal, and then she scores the second one, even though, like, her teammate was like, "What the hell? I was open. Like, why didn't you just give it to me? It would have been an easier
Mm.
shot, would have been lesser risk. And Anxiety's like, oh, it's fine. They'll be fine once I make the team. But it's like, if Anxiety's running the brain, surely Riley would have been anxious. Like, do you get me? She would have been anxious about that
About
person's
that.
opinion of her, about that
Yeah.
person's opinion, being like, "What the hell, man?"
Yeah.
I don't
she's
know.
not
I think she
created a
was
downward
so
spiral. Yeah, I know what you mean.
like
Mhm.
hyper. I agree, but then I think for me,
But that's
Uh-huh.
also
having
what
the
like
it was having the
that's what
three things
yeah.
on the table that almost like her sole focus was the goals,
Mm.
and like her anxiety was so focused on that if she
Mhm.
didn't get these three goals,
That's more ADHD then.
that was it. Yeah,
Mhm.
it was a bit
Thanks.
weird. I mean,
Yeah.
Get that
but
in
like
there.
you say,
It's
That
not
is
but I was
emotion,
just
but
saying like
sure.
ADHD and
Yeah.
anxiety, like
Yeah.
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 I mean that was
No,
a
but
wee
that's
thing,
also kind of
but
like that's also
Uh-huh.
kind of like the problem you get when you like segment these emotions so
Yeah, I know.
drastically. That's not how
You're gonna
emotions
if you
work.
if
But
you
yeah,
do
no,
if
I
you
know.
think about Inside Out 1 and 2,
No,
like
but
that, you're
like
gonna
yeah,
find
yeah,
many
yeah, yeah.
problems with
Like
that.
I
Yeah.
know what you mean. Like when you think
Yeah.
in your brain when you're thinking about it, if that happened to you and someone's like, "Hey, bro, like I was hoping," then that would turn
Yeah.
you down an anxiety spiral of shit. They don't like me now. They don't
Yeah.
trust me now. I'm not gonna get
Yes,
in the team.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yes. I get you.
Exactly.
I get what
Yeah.
you mean. Yeah. Hmm.
But yeah, that was just a little thing because it's like that's where I think you could have had,
Hmm.
sort of because anxiety does kind of like malfunction in the film, and
Hmm.
I think
yeah.
that would have been a good starting position
Moment
because of
of
the
yeah.
anxiety attack. But that would
First
have been a good kind
glitch.
of start fracturing of it
Hmm.
for me. But anyway, let's talk box office, right? So,
Yes,
to
yes.
my astonishment and to everyone's astonishment,
Yeah.
this film was projected to open between 80 and 100 million in the States. It absolutely smashed expectations, performing 155 million domestically alone and opening to 294 million globally, and only in 60% of its international markets as well. So it still has 40% more markets to open in. So, yeah, this film's going to probably cruise past $1 billion.
Yeah.
The first film grossed 858 million, so more than I actually remembered it grossing that much. But anyway, there's what I knew about that film. So yeah, wow. What do you guys make of this box office? Right, because this was
I will
only
say,
second to
yeah.
Incredibles 2's opening, very
Oh,
close
damn.
to Incredibles
Okay.
2
Mm-hmm.
opening as well.
See,
So bigger than Toy Story 4, bigger than Toy Story 3.
yeah,
This is
I've
one of
been
the
surprised by this movie.
Mhm,
People's opinion of this movie. I
Mm-hmm.
never held it into a high standard, but when I talk to people about this movie, a lot of people do like really, really
mhm.
like the first movie. Like
Yeah. I had
that
no
was a
idea.
master. I mean, neither. No, yeah,
Yeah.
but that was a
Yeah. Mhm,
masterpiece to a lot of
mhm,
people, and I'm assuming, like again, like for me, the story feels very derivative and disjointed. But that's because,
mhm.
first of all, it only feels derivative because I've seen it before with like the first Toy Story. So
Yes.
like it means that a lot of people that haven't grown up with that might have
Mhm,
seen that as like their first kind
mhm.
of like point to it.
I mean,
Yeah,
the timeline works perfectly because 1995, 2000, well, actually 20 years now, so 2015, and now
2015.
it's
Yeah.
10 years on from that
Yeah.
practically. So,
So
yeah.
and it feels like maybe like the subject matter itself, the idea of like
Mhm,
having the protagonist essentially be like the brain of this like teenage child who's also like a girl, like preteen girl. That's not like
mhm,
like again, there's not that many movies starring
mhm,
preteen like girls that are like this
mhm.
quality.
Yeah.
Sadly, it's like a
Mm-hmm.
market that's completely underserved and stuff. So I feel like there
Mhm,
is definitely like an emotional connection there. Like we've seen in recent years how much it matters when like you feel represented by the people on screen.
mhm.
I can
Yeah.
imagine a lot of girls growing up seeing that movie and being like, "Hey, this is me, this is my life, this is
Mhm,
how I what
mhm,
happened to me
mhm,
with my parents and stuff," and growing really attached to it. So despite having criticized it as much as I did during this like episode and stuff, like I can completely understand why someone
mhm,
would be attached to that film. Like it
mhm.
feels like it's dealing with
Yeah.
emotions, it's dealing with like like a lot of things that people are going to feel related to.
Mhm, mhm. Well, that's interesting, right? Because
Mm.
it's funny because you bring that up, and obviously I think you're relating to Barbie last year,
Hmm.
which is well.
Yeah.
Reason I did so well at the box office. Okay, sure,
Hmm.
it's got a Barbie in the title,
Yeah.
but a lot of people felt represented by that
Hmm.
film, and that was a really great thing, a really great cultural moment we
Hmm.
had last year with the cinemas and the movies. But we know Warner Brothers didn't take the right lessons from that
No,
film.
no, we know.
Because they want to make toy films. So now Pixar's also not going to take the right. No, Disney's
No.
also not going to
Yeah.
take the right lessons from this
And
film.
they're
And
gonna
we'll get
do
more
sequels.
Pixar sequels.
Yes,
Which
exactly.
begs to the question, right?
Yeah.
Because Inside Out 2 would have not been on the top of my list of Pixar sequels. If someone put a
No.
gun to my head
No.
and asked, what Pixar sequel would you like to see? Inside Out 2 would not have been in my top 5, probably. But I'm going to do that to you guys right now before the show ends.
Oh,
So,
God.
Kyle, because we're getting more, if there's a sequel you want to see from any Pixar film, what would it be?
Any Pixar film.
Because you're gonna get it, right? You're
Do you
gonna
know?
get
Do you know what?
it. So
No,
what
right,
would it
no,
be?
right, no.
Yeah.
A Bug's
Mm.
Life. I'll throw that one into the
Sure,
loop.
yeah, why not?
See,
Purely because that's one that's not
Yeah.
been touched since it's been made.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
See,
I rewatched it and I was like, the animation's good, but it's aging. It is aging,
Yeah,
that film.
yeah.
Mhm.
I would love
Mhm.
just to revisit that world. I thought that was very gimmicky, very
Yeah.
fun.
that is a
Um,
great example of a film that isn't that good, but I was really attached to as a child.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the
that
same.
thing
I
got
Yeah,
really-
me a lot.
yeah.
I just
Yeah.
there's so much of that film I can remember, like his little gimmicks and then the whole kind of circusy part. And I
Yeah.
don't know. I
Mhm.
mean, it's not been touched really, and I'm like, that's really in my
It's a
head
good
why
one.
I want it to be a sequel. 'Cause I'm like, it's not done in.
Well, what about you?
Well, this is
Gonzalo?
a cop out, but let's do Incredibles 2 again, but good this time.
Well, Incredibles
doesn't
3 is
count.
absolutely Incredibles 3 is going to
Yeah.
happen, so I'm sorry about that one. But,
Yeah, that was such a
Mm.
disappointment. I don't know, honestly. Like, I'm jumping onto A Bug's Life. That could be one, but I don't. I feel like the annoying thing is that like the strength of Pixar movies for me is in their original takes rather than their sequels. Like they have
Wait,
made
what
some
are you gonna
amazing
do with
Toy Story
Coco?
sequels
His
are-
his dad dies in like the Coco sequel
Yeah.
or something like that.
Up to
maybe. Mhm.
After Carl. I don't know.
Like,
well, they
what's
already
the-
did an Up sequel series.
Oh,
stuff.
they did
Yes.
do that. Yeah, they did do
Yeah.
that.
And also, they wouldn't do it because obviously the actor's now died who played Carl, so they would definitely
yeah.
won't touch that.
Passed away.
You got Luca too, and he rediscovers land. What, like, you can't. It's like
Look
a lot
at
of
you. This time will actually
the soul
go
guy
into, yeah.
dies again. Like, there's so many
Yeah.
of those films that are such. No, but that's
They
the
could
thing.
do
There's so
Coco,
many. But
they
no,
could
serious,
do
that's it.
Coco
There's so
too.
many of those films that are such
Yeah.
like one-offs because of how their story works,
Yeah.
That's the
which is
thing.
what
Yeah,
Inside
that's
Out,
the thing,
Inside
yeah.
Out should have been as well.
That's-
Like when you look
yeah.
at it, like I think.
Well, we know Toy Story 5's coming, right?
Yeah.
And
Toy
I'm
Story
pretty
8,
sure
7,
Incredibles 3 is going to happen next.
I need to
So-
watch Toy Story 4. I still haven't watched
Ugh.
Toy Story 4. I just
You've never seen Toy Story 4?
No, I was done with
I like Toy
3.
Story 4.
I know it's good and
It's an
Four's very good, but
epilogue.
I was
It's an
done
epilogue.
with 3.
Right.
3 was perfect.
It's not an
3
epilogue
got
anymore
bad.
because there's going to be a goddamn fifth one, Kyle.
It's
Woody
the
might not
pre-
be in it,
it's
but
the-
there's going to be a
it's the-
fifth one.
It's the pre-epilogue.
Okay, so like
Yes, yeah.
with Toy Story, they kind of got lucky there because it is a vague enough like subject matter that you could explore different stories within that subject matter, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of their Pixar films are very specifically about this one thing, and
Yeah,
that's
like
it.
we're saying, yeah.
Like you can't really do a Ratatouille 2. Like
Yeah, you can. It's restaurant struggling.
yeah, but what's the
It's-
point of that?
No,
you know, like
you
it was,
do
you
Ratatouille too.
comes in
It's
a
a
can.
it's
They do.
it's a
boiling
one shot.
point, but
it's
from
a
the
one
rock's
shot. He
perspective.
goes, yeah.
It's a one shot. He's stressed out.
See,
He's now an
if
alcoholic.
I had to
you know?
direct, if I had to direct a Ratatouille 2, I would make it about Remy's son being a bad cook trying to live up to his father expectations, because that seems like but like at that point you just make a different movie. Like it doesn't need to be Ratatouille.
I know. And he
You
just
know?
goes. He's just like, actually, son, you made me realize
Yeah.
not anyone.
Not
can cook,"
everyone
and
can
just
cook.
like sends
Yeah,
him
yeah,
away.
Oh, no,
No,
you
the
haven't
nice
the-
of
That's my pitch,
and
Pixar.
Menet at the end.
Yeah.
Ratatouille, Remy's son decides to go into
Mhm.
like instant meals or something like that, and he's in a
Mm,
microwave
yeah.
business, and Remy's just like, oh, I'm so
Do you
disappointed
know-
in my child.
Do you know
Yeah.
what I would love to see Pixar try out? The Disney formula of taking an ancient story and making it into an animated movie. I would love to see their take on something
I,
like that.
Yeah.
Because I feel
I
like
know
they
you
do
say
such
that,
a better
but
job
they-
than Pixar than Disney.
but
so-
but that's not
Yeah.
Pixar's thing. Pixar
No,
is
I know.
I
Like,
say
what if emotion had
unique
emotion?
films,
Yeah.
but obviously in
What
recent
if
years it's
Cars
becoming.
was it fire?
Cars 4 is my pick. I've said it. Cars 4, I want it.
Oh man.
Oh,
I'm
Cars
kidding.
4.
I don't
God
want. I've
damn
not
it.
even seen Cars 3.
Let's go with helicopters
God,
this time.
that trailer really
Yeah,
rocked the world, man. That was the Logan for
that was
Pixar.
crazy. That was crazy. No, I don't. You know what? I
Cars
would
3.
pick.
Good film,
Although
actually.
it's technically already had a prequel, I would go Monsters Inc. You know, let's see what
Yeah.
we're doing there in that
See,
They've
world.
done
Oh,
that.
no,
They've done the
no
sequel
snores.
series.
Oh, they have.
Did
Oh,
they?
okay.
Oh God.
It's
Oh
had
well.
See,
like
they've
2
already.
seasons on
We
Disney Plus.
can't,
Monsters at Work.
guys. We
Uh-huh.
can't really we can't really squeeze Pixar IPs more than they already have. Like this
Yeah.
is just kind of impossible. Like
Oh
literally, A
well.
Bug's Life was kind of like the only one they haven't touched.
That's why I was like,
Yeah.
they've not
Yeah.
touched A Bug's
Yeah.
Life.
And
Yeah.
maybe Wally. They're fixing the Earth. There we go. Whatever.
What if now that they've absorbed Blue Sky, we see Pixar's takes on like Blue Sky IPs, and we see like
What,
Robots
Ice
2 or
Age?
Ice Age 7,
Oh, Robots
6.
too. Give me that. That'd be
Yeah,
class.
I fucking love Robots. That was a fantastic movie. That was great.
Okay, on that note, let's wrap
Sorry,
this up. So thank you very much, Gonzalo, for joining me.
It's been a pleasure. Love talking about the movie I haven't seen. Yeah.
You did a great job, and thank you, Kyle, as well.
Welcome.
Yeah.
He gave better opinions in the film he's not seen than I have on the film I have seen.
It was crazy.
I
You
don't know
started
how he
talking,
did
I was
it.
like, you've actually set this up really well for us.
Yeah,
to
I
talk about.
know.
Thanks.
See, that's my job. Sometimes I'm
Those-
helpful.
Yeah.
Those talking points we gave
Yeah.
him before the show really paid off.
I
as
know.
well. It's like, you know.
So, yeah, he's an
Yeah.
industry plant. It's
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
So on next week's show, we have scarily got to that point of the year where we're halfway through it. So me and
Ah.
Keller are going to be talking about our favorite films so far this year.
Because
and also we'll
Gonzalo's
have
seen
review.
one. That's probably why
That's
Yes,
it's
so-
not
Ian
true.
Lewis.
I've seen
Gonzalo will.
Two.
Gonzalo's going to binge 30 films this week. And and yeah, we'll also have a review for The Bike Riders, the new Austin Butler and Tom Hardy film. So that'll all be on next week's show. But look, we just give our opinion on Inside Out 2. But at the end of the day, those were our unwanted opinions. Thank you very much.